who is describing a system that they...
The air was heavy with uncertainty at the 2010 Economist conference as business and government leaders gathered to discuss renewing confidence in Nigeria's economy and prospects for 2010 at a time of political uncertainty and financial recovery. A lineup of top government officials such as CBN Governor Lamido Sanusi, Governor of Lagos Babatunde Fashola, Minister of Petroleum Rilwanu Lukman and Minister of Power Rilwan Babalola discussed improving the business sentiment and their plans to negotiate domestic challenges. And certainly these leaders were put in the hot seat as leading Nigerian and international business executives confronted them on their concerns about improving power generation and transmission, and crunching credit, and the impact of security concerns on their investments.
As a theme of the conference, there's no doubt that there is a hunger among the private sector to be more deeply involved in solving the problems of Nigeria. We've had the model that everyone always talks about of telecommunications, the fact that mobile phones have been so successful in Nigeria as a good example of where liberalization and private companies have been able to make a lot of people's lives better, and they've made some good profits. Now, how can you take that example and apply it to other areas? We look across at the instability in the country, the fact that, for example, with gas pipes being vandalized so repeatedly and so frequently by militants, it is very hard to build infrastructure, for example, in what is almost a war situation, or has been a war situation in, for example, the Delta. So political successes such as the amnesty for the Delta and ending the violence there will be crucial for building the business and then the economic success for the country too.
Speaking in an interactive session on tackling homegrown problems, Governor Fashola encouraged the audience that with the Lagos example, it was clear that the Nigerian cause was not a hopeless one. He outlined his continued priority for 2010 as infrastructural renewal in Lagos and his strategy as dedicating 60% of the state budget to this plan.
Whilst the whole of Nigeria was fighting for its political survival, we left the most important things undone. Between, I think, 1984 and 1999, no new schools were built, no new markets were built, no new hospitals, no new roads, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we thought that if the infrastructure was not put in place, life would continuously be unbearable. So we set about it by setting very strict guidelines and timelines. We made time work for us. We used time as efficiently as we could possibly do. Deadlines were deadlines and they had to be met. More importantly, we felt also that there would be no seriousness about getting people to come in here to invest if we did not demonstrate a commitment that we were ready to build.
Responding to the audience's persistent questions on his plan for independent power generation in Lagos, the governor asserted that past projects in this area had left the government with its fingers burnt. But he also emphasized his commitment to finding a solution, including the adoption of alternative sources of energy.
We've committed to a 12.5 megawatt independent power plant for our water supply, which should increase the supply of water in the state by about 300% when it's installed, because the water facilities are there, but they can't deliver at optimum capacity because of power outages. We're looking at a few other ring-fence solutions for public institutions, public facilities, high courts, hospitals, the Alausa complex. But we are primed and ready to engage in the power sector if the rules become clear. You might also have heard that as I speak, Lagos State is in partnership with an Egyptian firm, and we've started producing transformers in Lagos State.
On the political front, delegates at the conference fingered issues such as the president's absence, possibly creating political instability and considerable risk for their investments. His response:
whether you like it or not, with all of its hiccups, and I made allusion to that the polity is a lot more stable now than it was before. And I think that it can only get better. But having said that, the regime that regulate PPPs are either contractual or statutory. And I think those are the standard protections that investors will have. Beyond that, it is easy here to say we will do this and we will do that, but everything really depends on the continuity and the increasing learning process that this democratic experience offers. And I say it's probably a function, if you don't mind me saying so, that this whole environment also has that kind of huge return on investment. So if you want the return, you must also be ready to take the risk.
But the question of the day was what the government planned to do about rebranding Nigeria after the failed attack by a Nigerian on a US-bound plane had painted the country as a terrorist state.
Speaking as an individual and as a Nigerian, I think that the conclusions might have been a little hasty, and I think that on the basis of mutuality and common interests, that kind of profiling does no good, really, to the business and international interests of both nations. I think that to ascribe the actions of a 23-year-old who is struggling to understand an ideology and a cause about which he probably knows very little, as the act of a nation, without demonstrating what Nigeria stood to benefit, if that action were in any event successful. I think if we take the can for something we clearly don't stand to benefit from, it is extreme in a judgmental form to reach that kind of conclusion. For me, if you ask me, the silver lining might just be just around the clouds. I've asked myself, what are we going to do in Europe and America? Education, healthcare?
So we would stay here.
Let's stay home and fix this economy.
Oh, let's do a quick survey.
However, talking to delegates, they believe that Nigeria is still a prime spot for business, despite their concern about the domestic issues that needed to be addressed.
Much of the prospects for Nigeria will rely on the rest of the world. But there is no doubt that there is dynamism here. There are solutions that have been brought up here for problems that are, to me, sound convincing. But that isn't to diminish or to talk down the serious problems that are faced.
I don't think the business confidence ever left. So when you say renewing the business confidence, I think it should be more like re-energizing business confidence. The economy has been doing very well. The stock exchange, as we all know, is down, but that's part of the global meltdown. But in terms of businesses performing, particularly in the non-financial sector, record profits are being declared. Businesses are still expanding. Fine, there's a credit squeeze, which was as a result of the banking crisis we had last year, but the CBN has intervened. That's been rectified, and banks are beginning to open for business this year.
Like the governor alluded to, a lot has happened, okay? From military rule to civilian rule. There's a lot more confidence now. The climate is opening up. Businesses have come in. I mean, look at my company, for example. My company came back into the country in 2003. That you can call it a dividend of democracy. Things will sort themselves out somewhere along the line, okay? I mean, I think what we should all just wish for is for the president to be healthy, okay? And don't forget that there are systems and processes in place, okay? Nature abhors a vacuum, so there's always things are running. Government is not about a person. Government is about a system. I don't think we're having their issues yet, okay? They might come to fore much later, I don't know. It's open to conjecture, okay? But for me and for us as a business, we're going on with our business. It's business as usual for us.
Players in the oil and gas sector seem positive that discussions on policy changes in the sector will yield good results on a long-term basis.
The country just needs to deregulate the pump price. Right now, there's something like we would see like a 25% increase in pump prices if there was deregulation, 25–30%, and it's a political call. At the end of the day, the country cannot keep spending $4 to $6 billion a year subsidizing a very product when that same capital is more than enough to build a 200,000 barrel a day refinery on an annual basis. So it's actually illogical for us to keep subsidizing.